Okay, so it's the next morning after the live stream for the Inman Distalizer. I found out the live stream wasn't any good. I had internet connections issues and it was very blurry. And this is a very detailed appliance. You got to see the details on it, I believe. So I'm re-uploading this. I have already recorded part 2. And so we do have a finished Inman Distalizer, IPC Distalizer. So we actually have an example to go on, but what I'm going to do is go over the main highlights of what the live stream went over in making the main components of this. A lot of this is, if you're already a seasoned lab technician, a lot of this you can do. Trust me, it's easy to do. You just got to make a certain cantilever bar and tube and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to make. I will go over the introduction again. So this is the IPC Distalizer. PC stands for Inman Power Component. It was invented by Don Inman of Inman Orthodontic Lab in Florida. He's our Nikola Tesla of our ortho lab industry. He's made a lot of inventions. In fact, I do have one of his very first ones was the Inman Aligner, and that is actually became very popular in Europe as an alternative to braces and to aligners. And so this is the Inman Aligner. You can see that is crazy, but it uses these open coil springs to help align things. So just that's a side note of where this kind of all began, because this uses open coil springs as the movement force. Don Inman created this little component. Let me see if I can. This is the reason I needed to reshoot this, because you couldn't see these very well. Let me change cameras here. This is the IPC power component. You can see it's got little ridges here, and it's got a slide lock right here. Now I'm gonna sacrifice one of these so I can reshoot this video, but let me slide this along here. So it only goes one direction, and see how I don't know if you heard that click or not, but it doesn't go back. So once you slide it one direction, it does not go back. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this all the way to the end and put it back on the start and click it one time to lock it into that first nut. There goes Pete. You're going to hear Pete a lot in this because it's morning. So that's it. I believe it's milled. This thing's having a hard time focusing, sorry. But you can see how small it is. And so what happens is you put an open coil spring on here, and then as you slide this along, it activates it, or it compresses the spring against the molar, and each click is 1 millimeter of movement. So it really gives the doctor a lot of control over how much compression on that spring they need. They can do 4 clicks, and theoretically that should give them 4 millimeters of movement of the molar. I know if you're an orthodontist, let me know in the comments. There's probably like a curve of compression strength and what you'll get out of, because the more you compress it, the more power, more strength, pushing movement you're going to get. I'm butchering this, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. But I do have the example model here so you can kind of see it. Us lab technicians were very visual. Oh, I'm sure the orthodontists, y'all are very visual too. So let me remove this. This is the overview. So this is a unilateral one. This is actually going to just move this one molar back, and you can see why there's not a canine here. So you can see there's a canine on this side, but it goes from the lateral to the fore. And if you look right here, you can kind of see a slight bulge. That canine's waiting to come in, but there's no space here. So what the doctor needs to do is move this molar back, and then move the 5, and then move the 4, and then probably shift these anteriors this direction to make room for this canine to drop into place. Otherwise, there's no way you'd be able to make room for that. And it's unilateral because you don't need to do it on this side. Now, I did post a picture. Now, how this all started, me doing this was I have a short out there, a YouTube short where I show off a bilateral Inman, and I'll throw up a picture of it here, but it has a bite plate up front where they bite, so it's like a fixed bite plate plus Inman Distalizer, both sides. They need it. They didn't have room for their canines on both sides. I guess if bicuspid hasn't come in yet, this will work for that too. It just will force this back, and how it does it is this open coil spring here. Right now it's pretty passive, but the instant the doctor clicks this, it'll compress it 1 millimeter, and then it'll compress it and compress it again. Oh. Try to get a good shot of this spring. It's so shiny. There we go. That's a good shot. So then it's going to compress this spring. The spring is not going to have anywhere else to go because this does not slide back at all. It doesn't have anywhere else to go except to push on this tube, which is attached to this band, which is attached to this molar, and they'll force the molar back. Now, molars are hard to move, so this actually has 3 points of anchorage plus the roof of the mouth to go again, to be an antagonist against the molar. So the molar is going to lose in this tug of war, or this opposite pusher war. So it's going to anchor, and so these will be glued down. These will be bonded to the occlusion of the fours. Of course, this will be cemented in, and this is just pretty much a wire. And then, so then it will, like, they'll click this 4 times, and hopefully they'll get 4 millimeters of expansion. If they need another one, they'll click it 1 more time. And so they're cone shaped, and let me show a drawing so you can kind of see this. You can use these for a lot of things. So this is actually a E-arch. There are some videos to watch on here, but if you click on how it works, so you can see the slide lock. So the IPC features a unidirectional sliding lock that advances smoothly in one direction, cannot move backwards, providing consistent, reliable adjustments. With each 1 millimeter click, the IPC compresses the coil spring, enabling precise, predictable activation that enhances the overall treatment experience. So as you can see, it compresses that spring down to this, and so then it's going to slide this down. This is a simplified version. We've made a cantilever tube. This is actually putting the IPC in a tube. We have done that before, and sometimes it does line up perfectly where you can do that. You can actually put the IPC in a tube attached to the molar. Very simplified. Sometimes simple the better. But in this case, we've dropped it down to the, let's see, can I go full? So there we go. We've dropped it down to the full extent. What am I trying to say? We dropped it down. Let me change this over to here. So we've dropped it down. So to be up here, it'd have to come across the gum line here and then in here. And you can do it. Probably in this case, you could probably do it. But sometimes the molar might be rotated or torqued in such a way that you couldn't get, it's got to be almost a direct path. So you do want these IPCs to be in this direction, or parallel, to run parallel with the occlusion here, and run parallel with the occlusion this way. So run parallel with the buckle, I guess. And then of course you don't want it to go up or down because it'll intrude it, or I guess you could use this for extrusion, but I don't know how well you could control it. So let's sacrifice that one IPC, then let me show you how I went about. Oh, I got to sacrifice a band too. So this is size 21. Let me grab one of those real quick. Yeah, I got an extra one. It's kind of so hard when the models are so dark. So I've put that on there. So it's ready. So what I've done is I'm going to grab this real quick. What I like to do is kind of eyeball it. So there's a fat part here that doesn't allow the tube to go any further that way. Let me pull this. Oh, I can't pull it off now. It's permanently on there. But let me back up. Okay, the supplies you need for this. Let me get a fresh paper towel. This one's dirty from the acrylic. Okay, you'll need the IPC. And this is, I bought a 5-pack here. Now, let me show you the website where you can buy this. Hold on, there it is. There's an actual kit. This is the IPC kit, and it is, I bought it from JBC and Company. She's an official seller of the Inman power components. But you get everything you need to make this. I'm gonna show you what right now I just buy the IPCs, and then I stick a tube, and I use wire I already have, and I buy the open coil wire. So you can actually buy this kit. It's $314, but you can make 10 IPCs out of it. But you can also buy from her just the IPCs like I have done. So let's go back to here. So I bought a tube of 5 IPCs. So you're gonna need, obviously, the Inman power component. You're gonna need some open coil spring. So this is actually 0.55 internal diameter. So pretty much you wanna make sure, I believe you can go smaller diameter. You need to make sure it slides over the ridges here, the cones. So it needs to be able to slide over that. You also need a tube. This is 0.40 internal diameter, which means you can slide an 0.40 wire in here. Now I believe this end here is a 0.36 size, so it slides in there pretty easily. But you can see in that raised area on the IPC, there's a little, if I can get it, the shine off of there. Then you can see the raised area, it doesn't go that far. So you need a tube, and of course I use 0.40 to make the cantilever. You can use 0.36 if you want, it should be fine. And that's about it. You need those main 3 pieces: the tube, the open coil spring, and the IPC. And of course, you probably already have 0.40 or 0.36. So what did I do with the model? Oh, it's still on here. So my first thing I'm going to do is show y'all how I did this with the laser welder, and then I'm going to show you an alternative method using the jump solder technique. So if you don't have a welder, I'm going to show you how I used to do this with just solder. So the tube is about, I don't know, what is that, 5 millimeters long? 7. So, like I said before, if the doctor needs more room, he can actually cut part of this tube off and it would slide further. So I'm going to bend this. Let's give it, the same 5 or 7 millimeters. How close am I on this? 8. Okay, well, I'll cut some off. Mainly I'm just doing this as an example. And I'm going to hold this up here. Now I have cleared this. Notice there's a pinch weld here. I will get to that in a minute. Not a pinch weld. I cut it with wire cutters. This is, I'm going to laser weld. I'm going to weld this. So if you have a laser welder or a puck welder like mine, you can use this method. I think it makes for a really clean design too. So I'm going to put my grounding on here, and I have set this for the lowest setting, which, if y'all need to know, it's 28% power and 1.5 milliseconds on the time. Okay, I got that initial tack, and I'm going to make sure it's lined up and put another tack down here. That wasn't lined up. Okay, that's an ugly tack. So I'm going to just spread out this. I don't want to heat up this tube. It could warp. And then your wire will not slide very smoothly inside of it. Okay, so I've done the weld on there. I'm going to come back in and fill it in, but let me do the other side while that side's cooling. Again, I'm just spreading this out. I'm going to go back to the other side. I'm going to fill in. And really, this is just a little bit of overkill. You know, I don't want this to come apart in the mouth. Okay. Do the other side. Not pretty, but it will get the job done. All right. Where are my glasses? I keep putting them over here. I can't look in the microscope binocular with my glasses on. So we got a pretty good weld on there. Well, really good weld. So to cut this, I have a diamond disc here on my handpiece. You don't want to use cutters on the tube because you'll crush the end and you'll pinch it. You'll cut it, but if you want it pinched in, that'll work. Now when we get to the solder trick, you may want to do that. So I'm just taking my time, letting the wheel do the work. There we go, and see, it's open all the way through. Now, if you find that this is too long, that's fine. You can cut off a chunk like this. Please, Lord, don't let me cut my fingers on it. Let me see if I can get pliers in here. You know, safety second. Again, I'm just ever so slowly just letting the wheel cut. I'm not pushing. I'm just letting it cut through. Because if I push through, it could catch, and then we're in trouble. So notice I cut through both ends, and I shortened it. So you can actually get shorter. Yeah, so that's 6. So that's good. And then you need, I'm going to switch over to a burr or here's a rubber wheel, that'll work too. And cutting it with the diamond disc will cause little burrs and stuff. And if you find that the inside, or there's a burr on the inside you can't get. Is this? Okay, I was thinking there's a light on. What I'll do is I'll take a little bit of one of these thingies, cutting burr, and just gently put it in there and it'll get that burr out. So I like using 036 internal diameter tube. I mean 036 would kind of limit this slide. I think it slides easier. So you're testing it here, okay? While it's on there, where did my model go? Oh, up here, like always. So you can see how this is starting to come together. So the good thing about this is sometimes if this is way far forward, you're not going to have enough room with these little locking mechanisms here. You'll have to always have this length perfectly straight and unblemished. But you could take this cantilever, you could put it at the back and that will give you extra room. And of course you could even shorten the tube. I would say you really only need like 2 or 3 millimeters of the tube. You'll get into kind of torquing issues, I guess, if it gets a little short. But you can move the cantilever to the back like that, and that'll give you even more room. I mean, you could put it back here, and then bend the, again, I would use 040 wire. Bend this straight forward, and weld it there. But this is just going to be a straightforward case, like it was with this one. Now, before we bend the IPC, let me show you, see if I can do it. I'm going to cut this. And this is what you get in the kit. I think you get some of these that are already made like this. So that's easy to assemble. Maybe worth the money. Let's do this again, but with a jump solder technique. Like a little bonus tip there. Let me get my tube ready. Get a rubber wheel. Hold on a second. Let me grab a pencil. I know my daughter has a pencil in here somewhere. There we go, that might work. I don't have a sharpener. Somebody's taking my sharpener. Now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna put some solder on this. Just pile up some solder. And then we're going to heat both under the flame, and we're going to try to jump this solder over to this and stick it together. All right, I haven't done this in a year or so. So ever since I've had pretty much the welder. But what we want to do is prevent solder from going into this hole. Now, one method is using the pinch technique like this, and then jump solder, and then you can take your disc, your wheel, and then cut that off. So that's one method. Is cut the end, pinch it like that, and then you're going to open it back up with your diamond wheel. So let's do this way. Now, why did I get the pencil? Now, graphene, which is what pencils are made out of, is an anti-flux, and you're going to want to fill up this tube with that anti-flux. One method I like to use is sharpen this real good, and then stick it in here and break it off. So now there's a broken piece of pencil in there. And so now you will not get any solder in there. Cross your fingers. So let's get the soldering stuff, and let's see if I can do this jump solder technique. Is that my, and then I need solder, and I need a torch. So again, you'll need torch, solder, and flux. So I'm going to mix up this flux. I may have to add a little water, get it to flow better. Yeah, let me add just a touch of water. But I like this flux from JBC. It's very creamy. Don't need much water. There we go. Lot smoother. No matter how tight you get this lid, I swear this thing dries out on you. Okay, first thing we're going to do, we're going to take the wire, make sure it's nice and clean, and I'm going to put some flux on there. Or I guess I could just dip it into the flux here. And then my solder's a little tarnished. So this is 56% silver solder. Right. I got my flame here. I'm gonna have to probably turn off the light so y'all can see this. Turn that down just a bit. And I'm just gonna heat this up. I'm gonna dip this into the flux. And heat this up as slowly as I can. And you got to put a big enough bubble of solder on there that's going to go around the tube. Probably need a little bit more. There we go. So I know it looks ugly, but I'm going to actually dip it into, I'm having a hard time with the flux on here. It might be my open window next to me. Let me close those blinds. Huh. That's interesting. Must be the other open window. Let me close that one. So why do all this if y'all can't even see it? All right. Closing that one. Anyway, here is that wire with the ball of flux on there. Now, one thing you do not want to do is overheat this. So if it turns red on you, start over the wire. Oh, it must be this other light. Man, light is being a pain in the butt today. All right, so I've got my tube here with the pencil broken off in there. I'm going to take a little instrument. I'm going to add a little bit of flux around here. Now again, make sure this is clean. I probably touched it a little too much with my fingerprints. One thing I will do is I'm going to add just a bit of heat shield to the end of this. So just like a double whammy of protection. So I have a tube of heat shield. I'm just going to scrape off just a little bit. There we go. All right, so again, you'll ruin this if you get solder in there. So let's get this going. All right. So I'm going to just gently heat both these up. I'm going to hold this one real close to the flame. I'm going to get it in the flame, the one on my left hand. And I'm going to get that solder nice and liquefied. See, now it's sliding around. And then we're going to have it jump to it looks like I got a lot of solder there, but I think that's the flux. It turns into like a glass. So let me steam this and come back and I'll show you how it turned out. Okay. So there is, oh, I got some stuff on my fingers. There's the jump solder technique. So now all I do is I cut it with a disc. At whatever size you feel like, whatever length you feel like you need. There we go. I don't know if that. So to clear out that, you can either steam it, the pencil that I put in there, or you can run a cutting burr in there. So, yeah. Yeah, you see that pencil fly out of there? You can trim it down if you want, and you need to pumice it and polish it and stuff. But that should work just fine. Famous last words. There we go. All right. So there is the jump solder technique tip number 1. So let's get back to it. Now that you have your cantilever, slide it onto your IPC like so, and then line it up. Now you notice I gotta bend this. There's gonna be acrylic right here. So this is the last chance. Now you saw me before, I've already tested this, and my hands are really dirty. I've already clicked it all the way through and then put it on the end. Now the reason I say test it is because once you put a bend in here, you will not be able to put it back on. So if it slides down, so this is the point of no return on these IPCs. So once I put a bend in there like that, and the slide lock, and you activate the slide lock, it doesn't go back. It will not go backwards, which is a benefit in the mouth, but not when you're assembling it, because there's no going back after that bend. Because now if I slide it all the way to the end, I can slide it on here, but it can't turn the corner to get to the engagement area. So I'm just going to do a simple, just in this little demo case, do a simple little bend. And you do whatever you want to do. You just got to make sure there's enough of it in the acrylic. So now I can get a more accurate reading here. So that's going to be in the acrylic. I probably should have made that longer. In fact, I may unbend that. But just in this demo case, you can see I need to now make this parallel with the occlusion. I need to make sure it's not going too far in, like this, because then it'll make that molar come in a little bit and probably put them in crossbite. And then, so right where you want to keep it, remember I'm putting a rest right there. And then I'm going to mark this right in the middle of that molar. Let me back up a little bit. I mark this right in the middle of that molar. So then I can take my pliers. You need to be careful of, you want to keep it in line. See, that's a little bit off. So I'm going to just bend it out just a little bit. So I want to keep it in parallel. You may have to adjust this a little bit depending on, the molar may be torqued here or there. Actually, I think I overbent that a little bit. So let me back that up just a tad. Now, here, if you're soldering, I would keep this long, and you could actually tack it down here at the end, so you can actually solder this. Use some zap it or fillet base. You could use some of this if you're going to solder. Since I'm just doing I'm laser welding this. Oopsie. Oh, well, if I can get a good grip on my model holder. So you want the tube all the way to the point of the where it gets wider. The IPC gets wider, but you can see how the IPC cannot be bent. It's got to stay pretty straight. Again, all this has got to be adjustable because you don't know the condition of that molar, if it's going to be inside, if it's going to be outside, all this will change. Your cantilever, that's why I like using a cantilever, because you can adjust this to the tooth. So if the tooth is actually torqued, this top wire on the cantilever is going to be torqued with it, but it can keep this part parallel. I can actually throw a little bit of sticky wax right here, because I have a steamer and I know I can steam off all this wax if I need to. So I've kept that purposely long here to show you can solder this like normal. Now I would use heat shield everything. You do not want to heat up this IPC. So heat shield, wet paper towel, plaster, and don't use plaster, but you know, anything to block this as you solder that. And if you got a hydroflux, a tiny solder welder, that'd be even better. And then that's pretty much the IPC. You could take now and make your rest, and that is just basic bending. You've all done this before. I'm just going to bend something really quick in here. You could connect the two together if you want for, I guess, extra strength. It takes a little bit of a wire bending challenge. Again, this is going to be very ugly, but hopefully I get the point across. Very ugly. Let me just stop that. Actually, I use 036. I'm using 040 right now. It's up to you. It depends on how strong you need the appliance to be. So all this part, again, is pretty basic. You can actually put a expander in here now. Let's see if I can find one. There's a nice green one. You can put an expander in here. Kind of like a pendulum, like a Pendex, I mean. You can put an expander in here at this point. You put I'm just bending these really, really fast. I'm not going to attach them. Y'all have seen that 100 times. Lots of videos on that. All right, I can't help myself. I got to do it. You know, it could be easier to connect the two together or just lay them in there. Sometimes the IPC will get in the way depending on what angle you need to put it at. Like I feel like that needs to rise up a little bit here to be more parallel. There we go. And so then, you know, this is, you got to kind of bend around it. I'm putting some wax down just to hold this temporarily. There we go. And then you'll have another band here, and that is just simply, that's as simple like you would do for a TPA, for really, I guess, a Nance button. Let me bend this up, get it out of the way. Again, you're going to put another support wire here, and that's going to give you 3 points of activation. And then you're going to take all these off probably after you soldered. Then you can take it off. You can. That's your chance to clean up the solder if you want with little tools and stuff. And then you're going to put it all back on here in one unit, and then that will give you. Let me clean this up. Pop this off. So then the sprinkling is like an Nance button, and then I just showed, then I'm about to show the trimming and polishing, and then that's it. So that is this is what you're going for after all that. So hopefully this helped. And then now cue the removal. So let's say I've put all these wires on here and I've sprinkled it. I've seen that a lot. And so you can cue now me trimming and polishing this, and then that's it. So hopefully that helped. Okay, here it is the next morning. I'm supposed to be filming the part 2 of the Inman Distalizer, and look what happened. I found out that I didn't have a recording of what I was doing. Oh, let me turn the mute on this. Oop. Okay, I was supposed to record part 2 of the Inman Distalizer, pretty much the trimming and the polishing and stuff. But then I realized I got a note from Amy on the live stream, hey, it's blurry. And I noticed I was having internet issues during the live stream. And I was like, okay, it's okay, I can re-upload the recording. I didn't have a recording going. So now I have 2. I got 2 recordings going, and so I should have a backup. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish up that other one, and then I'm going to go back over making the Inman Distalizer again. And what I'm really gonna do is just hit the high points of what you need to make the Inman Distalizer. So I hope this will help you, and I'm sorry about the live stream. If this is uploaded, I probably already unlisted the live stream, but hopefully this helps you. But let me start with, yeah, actually I need to do the trimming first. It's gonna be a little backwards this time. But maybe in the editing, magic of the editing, I can, yeah. All right, let's go to this shot. So I have it in the pressure pot here. It is ready to go. It has set pretty much overnight curing. I kind of wish I would have put those brackets on there. It'd been easier to take this off. So I'm just gonna you gotta kind of ease it off. You don't want to bend these wires. That's why I kind of like using a little bit heavier wires. Let me see if I can break this seal on this acrylic. Nope. That's why I have this towel here. I know it's dirty, but I mainly use it to get this. Let me steam this. Maybe that will help. I'm really hoping this is going to come off. Kind of hard to get my knife in there. Usually I'm doing it from back here. Yeah, it's not releasing. This may be. Oh, there we go. Okay. Just had to make some air underneath it. Let me get my. There we go. Band remover pliers. Man, these things come in handy. I'm glad one of my doctor's offices gave me these. I think they replaced all theirs with new ones, and they're like, "Hey, do you want some of our old pliers?" I was like, "Heck yeah, I'll take them. I can use them." Haven't used them all. Okay, so this one's actually going to be loose. You know, it's going to slide off on here. So there we go. All right. So as you can see, this is loose. And it's actually a great trick to play on newcomers. They'll, like E-arches, they'll go and separate this, and this will come off. And they'll come to you with ghost face, scared, pale, like, "I broke it, I'm sorry." And you can either go with it and go, "How could you?" Or you could just say, "Oh, it's okay, I meant to do that." So I'm going to take this over to the trimming station, and let's trim this up. Doesn't look like it needs much trimming. Let's see, where's my trimming station? It's over here. Dirty trimming station. I don't need the bulk trimmer. Oh, there's too much stuff over here. I'm gonna turn the suction on. Make sure I'm centered here. Sorry, I am not doing good here. Still having a hard time trying to find a good camera for this trimming box over here. Looks like this is, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off, and I'm actually gonna use a brand new bristle brush. If I can find the box. Where are you at? There we go. Because I'm going to clean this up. Now I would like to go this direction because this slide lock here, this slide lock goes this way, but it will not go back this way. So I don't know if you can see that thing spinning or not. I just got to be careful not to activate that slide lock. So let me go on the underside here. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up around each wire. Make a nice clean exit out of that acrylic. Now, let me grab my acrylic burr. Then I'm just going to smooth the acrylic a little bit. I'm going to take my time. You may not want to use something this coarse. You could use a more fine acrylic burr. If this coarse acrylic brush, touches any of your wires, there's a good chance you could destroy. A little thick right here, it could destroy your wires. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a finer tooth. You can see how these are more fine. Making sure I'm on the right. Okay. Okay. So I'm being real careful. The vibrations of this is spinning that slide lock. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. It's pretty cool. So again, just being very careful. I think I got it the thickness I want. What I've seen some people do is they'll put like masking tape over this to protect it while they do all this, especially for pumicing. What I'll probably do when I pumice is just put my hand over it and just make sure my wheel is really wet. Let's put this in here. There we go. So let me get my sandpaper. I'm going to sandpaper this. I could probably pumice without it. I love having this shiny, nice and shiny, but I'm not willing to go chase after a scratch if it's going to ruin the appliance. And once this is in the mouth, it's not going to be a big deal. The cool thing is, since I've laser welded this, I don't need to finish the solder joint. I can just polish that. Alright, so this right here is not going to be pumiced. This edge right here under the thing, so I'm not too worried about it. But I do want to kind of... I'm holding that slide lock. There we go. Let's pumice this. Alright, let me get my camera into position. Wait a minute. I have a camera in position. No, I don't. I moved it. I thought I had one. My pumice has dried over the weekend, but I do need to add a little bit more. So it's a little dry right now, but once we add the wheel on here, it's gonna spray some water. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on. Make sure my wheel is nice and wet. Probably would be good. Let me soak. I have a little tiny pumice wheel. I'm gonna soak that because I may need that for this. So I'll just go ahead and get that prepared. So I'm just using low speed. Again, I'm going to cover the slide lock with my hand. So my fingernail is going to go over the slide lock right there while I pumice this. There we go. I got it covered on the back end. Again, your pumice may not be perfectly smooth. Again, it's the function of the appliance that's more important. So I'm actually going to hold this. I'm going to try to pumice the underside of this ledge here. Let's do the front part where the tongue is really going to be spending a lot of time. Again, like I said, some people will put a piece of wire wrapped around this, like pinching it, and then you can just cut it off when you're ready. Let's get this straight on, maybe you can see. So I'm going to hold my finger against that slide lock right there. And press a little hard. Let me show you that other thing. So this is a quick chuck. So I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to put this one in. Let me draw that metal shaft a little bit. And that'll go in there. And then I do use this on high, and then this will get into smaller crevices like this. I'm being as gentle as I can. So that's what you would use this for, is sometimes you need to get into smaller places. Alright, let me rinse this, and we'll go to high shine. I'm going to go ahead and steam it. Sometimes this works when you got smaller wheels. This is a pretty brand new wheel, but looks like I'm getting everything, so that's making me happy. I'll go ahead and polish this. Again, you don't want to bend it. I'm going to polish this, which is going to turn my wheel black. I should change over to my metal wheel, but okay, I'm happy with that. Look, it got a nice shine to it. Again, like I said, this edge, I couldn't get a pumice wheel in there, but this slide lock is still in the same spot. So we're ready. We're ready for the final assembly is what I'm talking about. I need to rinse this. I need to steam all this off. Give me a second. All right, out of paper towels. So here it is. Not finished yet. You still got to do the assembly, but I think it did a decent job. I got to focus. Let's see. Still got my paper towel in here from when I was sprinkling it. Oh, forgot. Let me steam off this model. Clean it up real good. coffee while I'm here. Oh, I left the other part. There's so many different parts on here. Where's that band? There it is. I probably need to high shine this. I'm just gonna high shine this real quick. Got my fingers all blackened up. Lots of paper towel. Okay, I got the slider part, the cantilever tube part, and I got it shined up. It did a pretty decent job. Again, that is very done well. That is very well done. Done well. Slide that on. So there we go. There is our almost finished Inman Distalizer. Okay, so now what do we need to do? We need to add that open coil spring. So this is the open coil spring we're going to use, and I usually keep it in this bag so I can zip lock it straight, but it does come in a coil thing like this. Oh, that was it. Oh, I got some more down here. So let's get this going. Pull this back off. Again, this is one of the good reasons for using a little bit looser bands is you got to take this on and off so many times. So if you can tell in the camera, there is a little bit of a swell right here. Hopefully the camera's picking that up. So that means that this tube stops sliding right there. So that's where the swell, it's a little ingenious little thing that Don Inman put in there to keep this from sliding all the way up to here. So it stops right about there. That's where I want to cut the wire. So this is going to be a passive wire. Sorry, this is where I want to cut the open coil spring. So this is going to be a passive open coil for right now. And it's going to be the doctor that activates it. So I'm going to slide that on there. And then this should slide all the way to it. And it should not be much play. Yeah, perfect. There's just slight little bit of play right there. I actually see a little flashing right here. I need to get rid of that. There we go. So now you can see the mechanism. Let's see. Let me try. I'm trying to see if y'all can see this. You can see the open coil. So what the doctor's going to do is pretend this is in the mouth. They're going to take a special tool that will slide the slide lock, and it will click, which will compress this spring. So then the spring doesn't have anywhere to go but to the back, and it's going to push. It's going to push the molar by pushing this, which is attached to the molar, straight back, and it'll slide along here. Now this is probably too long. What I like to do is try to get an idea. I don't want this poking the back of the mouth. I like to slide this along to about a little past half the molar width. And then this is where I'm going to cut it. So this space, if it creates this space between here and here, that should be plenty of space for this. So I'm going to cut this just almost shy of this. All right, there we go. So didn't make much difference. What I'm going to try to do is I'm actually going to try to laser weld this thing. Do I have a camera on over here? I'm going to try to make this end bulbous. Usually I put a little bit of solder, but we're going laser weld on this whole thing. So what you would usually do in case of solder, now this is probably, I probably need to make it even shorter. Because looking at the, I didn't get much of a scan here. So if I look at this like this, this is probably going to be jamming into the back of the throat, unfortunately. Yep, I think cutting this right at the edge, we're going to be safe. Yep. So then this, we're going to put a stop on here, and so this will keep all this together one unit, so it doesn't just slide off. I guess you could leave it off, but I've always been told to put a little stop on there. Now, if I go to the Inman components, you can see there are stop. Oh, I got to share this. Hold on a second. Present, share screen, that, share. You can see right here, they put stops on there. Now these stops actually look removable. Let's look at another one. Yeah, I don't know if these are removable or permanent, but they're stops, so the appliance stays together. Otherwise, you're sending it back kind of like an E-arch. And it'll all be in all different pieces, or you got to tie it together with a ligature tie, the E-arch. So let's see if I can put a little thickness there, and that will prevent that from what am I trying to say? Sliding off the end. Oh, I gotta set my setting. I'm gonna set this on really high. It's almost like making a ball clasp on the end of this. Yeah, it needs a little bit of thickness added to it. So I'm gonna add a little piece of wire to this. Let's see, this will work. So what I'm doing is I'm going to get a little piece of wire. I'm going to weld it at a right angle to that. It's a little idea I have. I haven't done this before, like this. All right, let me ground this. I need to put it on the occlusal side. Okay, I know this isn't going to be in the mouth like this, but hold on, I'm working on something. But as you can see, this thing won't slide off the end anymore. Get my eyes back on. So what I'm going to do is cut this. I know, it seems weird. And then let me grind this down a little bit to smooth it off. It does not need to be very big, it just needs to be a nice stop. So now we have all the way to here to distalize, which I wonder how many millimeters that is. That's inches. Move to millimeters. That's fraction. 5. Okay. Over 5.5, which probably need about 8. 6. So what the doctor can do is they can actually take and grind off this little button, and it will give them a few more millimeters if they need it. So we'll go with that. Or they can grind that little button off, and then this will slide further if they want to. So I'm gonna leave that up to the doctor. He can grind that off, it can slide off more, or whatever he needs to do. If he needs more expansion, distalization. Okay, so that's it. That is the final product. You know, I can clean it up. I'm gonna micro etch the bands. I'll probably micro etch this because these will be bonded to the 4s, and this is ready to go. Now remember what I said before is you want to make sure if the doctor's new to this Inman appliance, tell them not to pre-activate this or not to test the activation, because once they activate it, it does not go back. So it is kind of like that. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Just don't pre-activate it. Don't play with it because it won't go back. So then they take a special tool and they'll just click on this, and this will probably slide to the end here, and then the doctor could actually take off that little button right there, and it could slide even more. Probably get a couple more millimeters out of it. I'm not sure exactly what he's looking for on this, but this will get him started for sure. That's going to be the end. Hope y'all enjoyed the Inman unilateral distalizer, the re-upload since the live stream didn't work, and share it with your friends. And I will see y'all next week.